Hello and welcome, or welcome back if you're a returning viewer to the channel. WB here, and in this video what I want to do is show you how you can create a group and configure dynamic member assignments inside of Microsoft Entra ID. As always, I ask if you like what you see on the channel, be sure to subscribe, click the notification bell, like, share, comments are always welcome, and check out that description below for a link to our community Discord server so that we can continue this discussion after this video ends. Alright everybody, let's dive in. Alright everybody, here we are on my Windows desktop, and if we want to create dynamic groups inside of Microsoft Entra, more specifically Entra ID, the first thing that we have to do is log into the Microsoft Entra Admin Center. Now, I will tell you, if you're in the Intune Admin Center, if you happen to be inside of the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, these are going to work as well too. I figured we would do Entra ID specifically because, you know, Entra ID really forms the identity backing solution, right? The identity store, I guess you could say, for the entire Microsoft Cloud ecosystem. So I figured we would start here. But I do want you to be aware of, in fact, let me see here. Let me hop on over to the Azure portal. I'll load that up in the background. Let's see. Hopefully it'll do pass through. And let's go to, let's see, yeah, Intune Admin Center. So we've got three different, administrative interfaces here, right? And I just wanted you to know that we could go to groups, and I'm going to do a short version. I'll explain what I'm doing here when we get back to Entra ID, and I could choose new group here, right? And then we could do everything that we're about to do here as well too. Let me go ahead and close this down, and I also want to show you that if you happen to be in Azure, right? Remember, you have Entra ID. I happen to be working in Azure in the last few videos, especially in deploying the Azure Virtual Desktop AVD for Windows 11 in the Windows 11 course that I put together, or Windows 11 deployment course that I put together. So you can see that it's in my recently used services. You can also use the global search field here, and you could look for Azure in here, or excuse me, Microsoft Entra ID here. You can also use the blades over here too, and remember, down here at the bottom you could launch Microsoft Entra ID here as well. All right, so what we're seeing here is that there's multiple ways to do stuff that we are attempting to do. Well, not attempting, we will do here. So I just wanted to show you that. Keep in mind, if you can find groups in the other administrative admin interfaces, you will be able to find what you need here from here as well too. All right, so in order to do this, remember that Entra has a lot of different offerings. It isn't just the traditional identity solution. That piece of Entra is Entra ID. Keep in mind, formerly known as the Azure Active Directory. However, you will see Azure Active Directory still in some documentation and even some interfaces where they haven't updated it. Just know that we're talking about one and the same. Right, Entra ID is just a more modern name for it today. Now from here, what we're going to do, and I'll kind of try to zoom in here if you're like me and have 4 eyes and have glasses and getting a little bit older, you might need a little help on that too. So notice that we have our groups right here, and we're going to select groups. A couple different ways that we could do this. We're in the overview blade, right? I would be remiss if I didn't tell you. You can see right here we could create a new group. You can also view the groups, and if you're viewing your groups current, you can do you can choose new group here as well too. Remember what I did say, that you will still see some interfaces and, well, even in some names too. So you can see the Azure Active Directory, Domain Controller, or DC Administrators, right? Some of the default groups that are built in, including some of the ones that I've created for various things that I'm doing. All right, so what we're going to do here is, again, wherever you choose this from, we're going to choose new group right here. All right, and we get to choose the group type, right? Whether it's a security group or if it's a Microsoft 365 group. We're going to save Microsoft 365 groups for maybe another video and demonstration because they have a different purpose and it's outside of the scope of our video here. But security group is one that we can assign privileges and permissions to. And we're going to go ahead and name this group. So, what do we want to call this group? Maybe we call it New Jedi Order. Notice the two I's there. No copyright infringement here. And what are we going to call this, right? We're going to call this Dynamic Windows 11 Enterprise Membership. This is more for me. Remember your naming conventions, and I do encourage you to use proper naming conventions. In fact, I am going to take all the jokes aside here, and I am going to call this West US Devices. All right, so this is in my West Branch U.S., right? Because today we could be very easily international company, so my West Branch, West U.S. branch, and the devices within there. All right, and now here's where we're going to make a couple of selections. Now here, let me go ahead and we'll assign an owner first. We're not going to worry about the members because we're going to come back in here and we're going to define the dynamic device assignment. We could use device user too, or dynamic user too, but for us, we're going to use device assignment here. All right, now I'm going to go ahead real quick. Let's attach an owner to this, and I'm going to go ahead and I will attach myself to this and choose select. All right, members I'm not worried about yet because we have to define how membership is going to be accomplished. Now, one of the things I want you to understand is when we talk about group membership and membership management, right, in our identity and access management solutions, we could do assigned, all right? Now, if we do assigned, then that means we're going to have to manually come in here with administrative overhead, and we're going to have to select the members that we want, whether it's users or devices, both, right? But we have to select them. So that is something that's keep in mind, and it does have its purpose, but that's a static assignment, which means if that device is no longer needed within this group, you also have to come back and you have to manually remove it too, right? So wouldn't it be nice if we had a way that we could scale the group membership, right? And that's the big thing, scalability, right? In more modern identity and access management solutions in cloud, being able to scale this allows us the ability to reduce the administrative overhead, and we could either do this by dynamic user or dynamic device. Now I'm going to use dynamic device, all right, and there are some other things that we need to be able to do, and you'll see that we now have an additional option here, and that additional option is the dynamic query. All right. Remember, as we go through these, you can always hover over if you happen to have your own tenant where you're practicing here, right? You can always hover over these, and a lot of times they'll give some really good information. This one's kind of generic, and I'm sure you could probably deduce that, on your own. So let's go ahead. Let's choose Add Dynamic Query. Now, there's a couple different ways that we could do this, right? When we configure the rules, we could use the rule builder here, right? And we could choose our property, right? We could choose our operator, and then we could turn around and we could add our value, right? And then what it's going to do is it will add that and build the syntax for you. I'm going to change this a little bit because what I want to do is show you how you can use the syntax, the rule syntax editor, to go ahead and get a little bit more complex. So here's our goal. Our goal is that what we want to do is we want to make sure that the devices that we dynamically add to this group are Windows devices. I want to make sure that they're Windows 11 Enterprise, and I want to make sure that it is Windows 11 that we are adding. All right, so Windows 11 Enterprise editions, right? And let's go ahead and let's add the first part of our device query. Now, you can find some documentation on the device queries here, but we're going to start out here with device.device OS type equals. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add the entire rest of this, right? The second line that we're going to add, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what this is doing here before we actually build it. All right, we're going to do an and. here, and I got one more and. So and this, and then, right? All right, so let's look at what we have here, and let me kind of zoom in again, make this a little bit easier to see. And let's just take a brief, now what I'm going to do here is kind of talk about what is going on with this, right? So this first part of our rule, what does that do? Well, in that part of the rule, what that's going to do is that's going to say, hey, these device types, the OS type has to be equal to Windows, right? We want to make sure that we filter Windows devices only. The next portion of this is the device ownership option, right? When we say equal to corporate, right, this ensures only corporate-owned devices are going to be included, and for us, that is Windows Enterprise editions, right? So this is going to exclude BYOD scenarios as well. Then we come to the last portion where we're saying we want to make sure, right? So far we got Windows Enterprise, and now we want to make sure that it's Windows 11. All right, and this is where the last part comes in. Now, you can get a little bit more specific than I did here, but generically, what I've done here is I've said, okay, the device OS version, it starts with, and then we gave it the first 3 sets of information, right? So you'll notice that Windows 10 generically starts 10.0.1. So 10.0.1, right? Or .19 if you want. But keep in mind, it doesn't start with .2. So when we say generically 10.0.2, we're saying that we want Windows 11 builds. All right. However, we could include newer builds, and we can get a little bit more specific and just not leave out the 2 there. And we could say, hey, I want a specific build, right? Or maybe I want, instead of that, the 22000, maybe we want the 22 and then the 621 build, right? So we could get specific with it. I'm going to leave it generic and just say, hey, if you're Windows 11 and it's Enterprise, then let's bring it into this. Let's bring it into this group. And then from there, what I could do is inside of Intune, I could turn around and I could attach update policies that also control the updates from here too. So once we have that, if we've done our syntax correctly, what it's going to do is it's going to recognize what we've put here. All right. Now, one of the things you'll notice here is, notice that it tells me, you did something a little bit wrong. All right. And that's okay. Notice that when I'm explaining it, I got and, right? But let me go ahead and edit it. And let's put it back here as far as the way it should be. And we'll choose OK here. And now we've corrected it, right? So notice that, again, even though it kind of looks the same across the board here, when we choose edit, there is a specific syntax, right? It needs to be able to apparently delineate these, right? So let's go ahead. We'll just back out of this. And notice that we now have our dynamic query. Device type equals, right, Windows. Device ownership equals corporate, right? That's no BYOD devices, and Windows Enterprise is a corporate version of the Windows 11 operating system that requires volume licensing with an enterprise in order to have it. So we know that's going to bring in the Windows Enterprise. And then we've also said device OS version starts with, and again, it's 10.0.0, or excuse me, I'm thinking IP addresses. My first thought is Class A IP address, so 10.0.2. If it's 10.0.1, and then anything behind that, it's going to be Windows 10. All right, so now, once that's done, we choose Save. All right. Now, what it's going to do is it's going to validate these rules, and like we've seen, if it gives us a hard time, that we have to make changes to it. But it validated them for us, so we're going to go ahead and choose Create, and we now have a new group in our list. One of the things to keep in mind too, it should be down here in this part of the list. This list isn't dynamic, so just never. I had a friend that would say, "Never fear the refresh," right? So we'll do a refresh here, and we now have our West US devices, right? And as our members, are identified as meeting the, where's the properties? That's what I'm looking for. The membership criteria, they will start to enter into this group, right? So that is the way that you can create a dynamically assigned, I guess I should say, with dynamic group membership assignment inside of Entra ID. Keep in mind, it allows you the ability to reduce the administrative overhead of manually adding devices to these groups when you talk about scalability, right? We want a greater scalability, and dynamic device assignment allows us to do that. So thank you for watching this. As always, if you like what you see, be sure to subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, like, share. Comments are always welcome, and check out the description for a link to our community Discord server so that we can continue this conversation after the video ends. Thanks for watching.